What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out the brutal ambush on Blackwater PMCs. This is by Tacticore. We've actually watched a couple of their videos in the past. I really like the way that they storytell. So unlike someone like the Fat Electrician that storytells usually like a figure or an event, but it's more of the whole timeline, this is more of a specific happening within the military, and I really like that. They've done, they did an SAS one a while back that we watched, and the way that they lay out the missions and what happens and how it's broken down, I think is absolutely phenomenal. Again, we've watched a couple in the past, and it blows my mind that they're only at 80,000 subscribers. So I'm going to leave a link down below to the original video. Please go over there, give it a like, give it a subscribe. All that good stuff. Really important that you do that. I'm very excited for this video. Before we get started, we're already excited. Check out Chug, the channel sponsor. 10% off, link down below, for the best drinking vessel in the world. This thing is phenomenal. Handmade here in the UK with sustainable materials. You're not going to get a better deal anywhere else, believe me. 10% off, link down below to look like an absolute legend while drinking your drink. Also, check out Morale. The drink should be out September. People who backed the Kickstarter, we should be getting the drink this month, which is insane. And the merch, this clothing, this month, which means it'll be getting sent out to you. If you want to check out more and know when it goes live to the general public, go to the links down below to drinkmorale.com, and also check out the Morale podcast called Morale Boost. You should totally go do that. Other than that, let's pull this up and let's watch this. Let me make sure subbies are on. Yep. All right, let's watch this.
One of the most controversial events in the Iraq War is the Blackwater Fallujah ambush of 2004. The ambush was a turning point in the conflict, and it had a significant impact on the way the U.S. military conducted operations in Iraq. Before we get into the details of the ambush, let's first understand the context of the situation. In the aftermath of the 9/11 attacks, the United States launched a war on terror that included the invasion of Iraq in 2003.
That whole situation's so weird, isn't it? The reason we invaded Iraq was 9/11, even though they came from a different country than Iraq. The whole situation is so bizarre and convoluted, isn't it?
The U.S. military was tasked with securing the country and defeating insurgent groups, but the task proved to be challenging.
Yeah.
As a result, the U.S. government turned to private military companies like Blackwater to provide security services in Iraq. These companies weren't subject to the same regulations as the U.S. military and were allowed to operate with a high degree of autonomy. Initially, the U.S. military faced little resistance, but as the occupation continued, opposition grew stronger and the insurgency began to take hold. By 2004, the insurgency had intensified, and the U.S. military was struggling to contain the violence and unrest in the country. Fallujah, in particular, was a hotbed of insurgency activity, and it had become...
I actually don't know the full story of Fallujah. Also, I haven't watched the new film Warfare yet. I said I've been wanting to watch it on live with you guys for a long time and finish off the Pacific. I am going to get around to it at some point. It's just that with my scheduling with my kids at the moment is not allowing me to do that right now. But we'll get around to it at some point.
A symbol of resistance against the U.S. occupation. Blackwater USA was a private military company that was contracted by the U.S. government to provide security for its personnel in Iraq. Blackwater had a reputation.
I almost got recruited to do anti-piracy, like basically security, but for ships after I left the military. There's a lot of lads who go and do that. Actually, they do that job. They do private protection and stuff like that. I was almost recruited for it. I'm kind of glad I didn't do it now, to be honest with you. Because if I did do it, then I would have met my wife and had my beautiful children. So,
for being one of the most professional and efficient security companies in Iraq. However, it was also known for its aggressive tactics and its lack of accountability. Scott Helvenston was a former Navy SEAL who had served in several conflict zones, including Somalia and Kosovo. He'd also worked as a stuntman and had appeared in several movies, including G.I. Jane and The Rock. Jerry Zovko was a...
By the way, a lot of these private companies, they are former military. Like I said, I was almost recruited by one of them. But for the most part, they're pretty much all former military. Not all of them, but you're going to look at like 95% former military.
Former Army Ranger who had served in the Gulf War and had worked for Blackwater for several years. He was known for his physical fitness and his dedication to his work. Wesley Badalona also a former U.S. Army Ranger who also worked for Blackwater for several years, he was known for his calm demeanor and his ability to handle high-pressure situations. Michael Tigg was a former U.S. Army Special Forces soldier who had served in several conflict zones, including Bosnia and Afghanistan. He'd also worked as a private contractor for the U.S. government before joining Blackwater.
So quite a high caliber team then there, isn't there? To be honest with you, they've got some good skills and experience between the four of them.
All four contractors had extensive military experience.
Yeah.
On March 31st, 2004, a convoy of vehicles, including 2 flatbed trucks and 2 armored SUVs, was on its way to deliver food supplies to a U.S. military base in Fallujah. The convoy was being escorted by the 4 Blackwater contractors. Badalona and Zavko were in the front vehicle, followed by the flatbed trucks, followed by Helvenston and Tigg in the rear vehicle. As the convoy made its way through the city, it was ambushed by a large group of insurgents armed with rifles, rocket-propelled grenades, and other weapons. The attackers had set up roadblocks and barricades along the convoy's route.
Classic.
The insurgents first approached the rear of the convoy, and they started shooting at the vehicles as they approached. From behind, from the sides, bullets spiral through the doors and shatter the windows.
So this was obviously a planned attack, by the looks of it. I wonder how they got the intel that this was going to happen in this specific area. I wonder how they found out that Blackwater were going to be here at this specific time and what intel they got, and how they managed to get that, because someone must have leaked it, right?
Helvenston and Tigg are shot dead first. Zavko and Badalona, 2 truck lengths ahead, hear the gunfire. Badalona hits the accelerator. He wants to drive straight, escape the kill zone. Standard procedure in an ambush, but the road's blocked up ahead.
Classic.
He turns hard to the left and does a U-turn into the eastbound lanes. They're under heavy fire now from behind and at close range. 2 rounds rip through the driver's seat, catching Badalona in his back.
Oh,
he slumps
shit.
over onto Zavko, who has already been dead by then. The contractors tried to escape, but there was just too much resistance. Eventually, they got overwhelmed and brutally killed. Shortly after the firefight, the locals swarmed the vehicles, pouring out of alleys and shops and apartments. Badalona's carbine is yanked off his neck. A teenager in white trousers vaults the hood of the lead SUV, reaches through the passenger.
That's insane that we've actually got real images here. Like, we've got actual images of it. That's insane.
Window and grabs Zavko's gun, taking radios and everything they could find on the contractors. Dragged from their vehicles, their bodies were beaten and burned, with their charred corpses then dragged through the city streets before being hanged over a bridge crossing the Euphrates River. They'd stay up there for almost 10 hours before the Iraqi police cut them down.
The fact that there's kids there celebrating it as well, that's horrific.
The ambush was also helped by corrupt Iraqi forces, luring the convoy into the planned ambush.
There you go. So they found out by corrupt forces, unfortunately, and that intel got leaked, and they knew they were going to be there. That's heartbreaking, isn't it? Heartbreaking is an understatement when it comes to stuff like that. I'm sure the aftermath was quite brutal, I'm guessing.
The Fallujah ambush sparked a massive response from the U.S. military,
and
it led to the first Battle of Fallujah.
And again, I don't know much about the Battle of Fallujah, so I need to do a video on that. I need to learn more about that because I don't know much about it. People were constantly asking me to play like the game and stuff, which I've played, and it's relatively decent, but like I don't know much about them events in particular.
The battle resulted in significant casualties on both sides, and it was one of the bloodiest and most intense battles of the Iraq War. The operation, which began on April 4th, 2004, involved more than 10,000 U.S. troops.
Wow.
And was one of the largest military operations of the war. The battle was intense and brutal, with heavy fighting taking place in the streets and buildings of the city. The U.S. military used heavy firepower to try and dislodge the insurgents, including artillery, airstrikes, and tanks. The fighting resulted in the deaths of hundreds of insurgents and dozens of U.S. troops. While the Blackwater Fallujah ambush is widely known, there are many aspects of the story that are not commonly discussed. One of the most significant of these
I want to throw this out there. If anyone's watching this and you're former US military and you were involved in the Battle of Fallujah or anything like that, and you specifically watch these videos, mate, slip into my DMs. Slip into my DMs. I'd love to know more. Email me, whatever. However, whatever means necessary, get a hold of me because I'd love to pick your brain about it.
is the fact that the contractors weren't properly equipped or trained for the mission they were assigned. According to reports, the contractors were driving unarmored SUVs and weren't wearing body armor at the time of the ambush. They were also reportedly not provided with adequate intelligence or support from the US military. Furthermore, the contractors weren't informed of the level of danger they would be facing in Fallujah.
Again, I've said this so many times on so many videos. Intel is king. Intel is king in the military, whether that be drones, whether that be information, whether that be comms, whether that's communication between different departments, so not compartmentalizing things and having a free flow of information between the lads in the sky, the boots on the ground, the commands back at base, making sure the flow of information is as free as possible within a secure environment, obviously, is king at all times. Unfortunately, Blackwater being a private military contractor, they're not going to have that. They're not going to have that freedom, unfortunately. Yes, they probably would have been able to have comms with, I don't know, some figureheads at a base somewhere. But whether that base would have had comms with the military, whether they would have had eyes in the sky, whether all this other stuff, 2004 as well, so there's no drones flying about. Comms are just rough.
They were told that they would be providing security for food deliveries and weren't informed that they would be driving through a hostile area. For the family of Scott Helvenston, the grief was compounded by what they saw as a betrayal by Blackwater.
Yeah.
They alleged that the company had failed to provide adequate security for the convoy.
And not just security, but information, right? Security in a sense that the information got leaked, yes, but just information in general and knowing, being aware, I think that is a security risk first and foremost.
Put their son's life at risk. The family sued Blackwater for wrongful death, alleging that the company had breached its duty of care by failing to provide sufficient protection for its employees.
Makes sense.
The lawsuit was filed in 2005, and it was a long and difficult process for the family. Blackwater, on the other hand, denied any wrongdoing,
of course,
and argued that it had provided the necessary security for the convoy. The company also argued that it was immune from lawsuits under the doctrine of sovereign immunity, which protects government contractors from liability for actions taken on behalf of the government.
So basically weaseling the way out of anything. If I was any contractor working for them, I would have quit. The moment they didn't help out the families of someone who died under their, I would have left. 100%. You don't work for a company like that.
It also highlighted the dangers of using private military contractors in war zones.
Yeah.
Private military companies like Blackwater weren't accountable to the same standards as the US military, and are often motivated by profit rather than the safety of their employees.
True.
The Blackwater Fallujah ambush was a tragic event, no doubt, that had far-reaching consequences. This ambush serves as a reminder of the dangers of war and the sacrifices made by those who are sent into harm's way.
It's not just that, it also shows and emphasizes why, yes, the military has a lot of hoops you got to jump through when it comes to mission briefs and debriefs and all these other intricacies that sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you're just like, ugh, another part of this. But it's all there for a reason. The structure is there for a reason. The SOPs are there for a reason. Security and SOPs around security are there for a reason, right? And these private companies like this obviously cut corners in ways to get things done that the military can't because they're able to cut them corners, and it's not necessarily a healthy way to do it.
It also highlights the importance of accountability, transparency, and proper training and equipment for those who are tasked with providing security in war zones.
Yeah.
But let us know what you think in the comment section below, and thanks for watching.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic video by Tactical. I will leave a link down below to the original video. Please go and check that out. I think I'm going to try and do a bit of research to find a video about the main story of Fallujah and what happened, because I really don't know. And I feel like this is a particular battle that I should have more education on. And so if you have recommendations about that, let me know in the comments or in Discord or any other DMs or emails or whatever you want to, however you prefer to contact me. But fascinating video. I'll leave a link down below to the original video. Please go over there, give it some love. If you've been contacted to be a contractor, just be careful with what company you work with and make sure you get references of that company. If you've got friends who have worked with them, ask them what are they like. Do they look after you? Check out Jug, 10% off, link down below, and also check out Morale while you're there down below. Other than that, I love you all. See you in tomorrow's video. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.